Welcome to Lead with Clarity. This is a space for leaders who want to grow without losing themselves in the process. Each episode is a short reflection on leadership, influence, and the inner work that shapes how we show up for others. Not hype, not noise, just clear thinking for the journey of leading well. The title of today's episode is Hearing the Unspoken, the Leadership Discipline of Deep Listening. Here we go. Most communication breakdowns are not caused by poor speaking. They're caused by poor listening. And the higher you go in an organization, the more expensive that becomes. At senior levels, we move fast. We operate with compressed time. We are conditioned to interpret quickly and decide quickly. We assume alignment because no one raised a hand. We mistake silence for agreement. We see nodding and interpret it as a commitment. But often, what looks like alignment is actually hesitation. Peter Drucker once said, "The most important thing in communication is hearing what is not said." That sentence has followed me for years. Through board meetings, through restructuring conversations, through digital transformations, through executive sessions where millions of dollars and hundreds of careers were indirectly on the line. It's simple advice, but it is not easy to practice. I remember a strategy meeting years ago. The deck was polished, the metrics were clean, the case was compelling. We walked through the proposal, and one by one, the heads nodded. No objections, no pushback, no friction. On paper, it looked like alignment. But the energy in the room told a different story. Shoulders were tight, eye contact was limited. There was very little follow-up curiosity. The questions were procedural, not strategic. It was the kind of quiet that feels orderly but not energized. The plan moved forward. Execution lagged, deadlines slipped, ownership felt diluted. People complied, but they did not commit. What I realized later was this. Everyone had agreed verbally, but several leaders had unspoken concerns. They were unsure about resource strain. They were worried about downstream impact. A few believed the timing was off. No one wanted to be the dissenting voice in a room that appeared unified. Silence was misread as support, and that is a costly assumption. Many leaders equate verbal agreement with emotional commitment. We get what I call an acknowledgement yes, a polite yes, a "I heard you" yes. What we really need is a confirmation yes, a yes that carries conviction. A yes that reflects understanding, ownership, and belief. Those are not the same. If you've ever launched an initiative that stalled despite unanimous agreement, you have experienced that gap. Hearing what is not said requires discipline. First, it requires slowing down. When a proposal is presented and the room is quiet, resist the urge to fill the silence. Silence is diagnostic. It reveals where thinking is still happening. It exposes discomfort. It gives people time to surface what they are not yet ready to say. Second, it requires observation. Communication is far more than words. It includes posture, facial expression, tone of voice, cadence, the pace at which someone responds, the length of their pause before they answer. Now, if someone says, "Yes, that makes sense," but their voice softens and their eyes drop, that's data. If someone leans back, crosses their arms, and shortens their answers, that's data. If energy drops after a decision is made, that is data. Strong leaders listen with their ears. Exceptional leaders listen with their eyes. Third, it requires asking the second question. The first question usually produces the safe answer, the socially acceptable answer, the answer that maintains harmony. The second question invites honesty. Instead of asking, "Are we aligned?" try asking, "What concerns are we not discussing yet?" Or instead of asking, "Does this make sense?" ask, "If this fails, what will have caused it?" Instead of asking, "Any objections?" ask instead, "Who sees this differently?" You're not looking to create conflict. You are creating permission. There's a subtle but important distinction here. This is not about becoming overly sensitive or reading drama into every pause. It's about becoming perceptive. Strategic listening is not emotional fragility. It is executive awareness. When leaders consistently surface the unspoken, several things begin to change. Trust increases. Teams feel seen, not just managed. Risk is surfaced earlier when it is cheaper to address. Innovation improves because tentative ideas find language. Psychological safety is not created by slogans. It's created by leaders who genuinely want to hear what others hesitate to say. There is another dimension to this. At senior levels, information is filtered. Risk is softened. Language is polished before it reaches you. Most executives are not lied to. They're protected. They're handed a curated version of reality. If you only listen to the words spoken, you will inherit that curated truth. If you listen beneath the words, you will detect tension before it becomes crisis. You will notice when your CFO says the forecast is achievable, but not confident. You will sense when your CIO calls the timeline aggressive rather than realistic. You will hear when your HR leader pauses before endorsing a cultural shift. Those nuances matter. Hesitation is information. Soft language is information. Energy shifts are information. Clarity is rarely lost in what is shouted. It is usually lost in what is avoided. The best executives I've worked with were not the most eloquent speakers. They were disciplined observers. They watched the room. They tracked who disengaged. They noticed who stopped contributing after a decision was made. They invited dissent with calm curiosity instead of subtle intimidation. That is leadership maturity. Communication is not performance. It's perception, it's awareness, it's restraint. In a world obsessed with speaking, clarity belongs to those who can listen deeply. And here's where this connects directly to leadership. You cannot lead with clarity if you are operating on partial truth. You cannot drive alignment if commitment is shallow. You cannot accelerate execution if the foundation is unspoken resistance. Clarity is not created by louder messaging, it's created by deeper listening. So the next time you find yourself in a high-stakes conversation, slow the moment down. Watch the room, notice the posture, pay attention to tone, ask the second question. Instead of, are we aligned? Try, what are we not seeing yet? Instead of any objections, try, who sees this differently? Instead of closing quickly, allow a little productive discomfort. Because silence does not equal agreement. Politeness does not equal commitment. And acknowledgement does not equal ownership. Hearing what is not said is not soft leadership. It is disciplined leadership. It protects strategy, it strengthens trust, it surfaces risk early, and it builds real commitment, not artificial harmony. So again, if you want to lead with clarity, start by listening beyond the words. Listen with your ears, listen with your eyes, and listen for what has not yet been spoken. That is where the real conversation is happening.